User management topic. So first thing, if you want to do anything in the database, like if you want to create any objects or if you want to retrieve any data from the database, the first thing you require is user to log into the database, correct? So in the database, there are two types of users. One is just a user. Second is a schema. A user is nothing but who can log into the database and who can retrieve the data from the objects. But he will not be able to create any objects. That means he will not consume any space. He can just retrieve the data from the database. Whenever this is the first thing, the thing is like he can just retrieve the data from the database. The second thing, he will not consume space. So now my question is, I'll create a user called as A, and now under A I will create procedures, I'll create functions, I'll create triggers. Okay, will this be a schema or a user?
It is not an user.
Will this be a user or a schema?
It is not user, right? But
It's not a user?
yeah.
Why? I'm creating a user called as A, okay?
Okay.
Inside the user, I'm creating procedures, functions and triggers.
Okay.
Now the difference between a user and schema is a user can just retrieve the data from the database and he will not consume any space. Okay? Whenever a user consumes space, it will become a schema.
Okay.
Consume space. Now my question is, if I create procedure, function and trigger under user A, will that be a schema or a user?
User.
Why?
It will not consume any space.
Yeah. Procedures, functions and triggers are just objects. It will not consume any space.
Yeah.
Whereas if you create any table and if you insert some data into the table or if you create an index, then it will be treated as a schema.
Okay.
Okay. So whenever a user consumes any space in the database, then it will become a schema. Okay. Now,
Okay.
first, what should be required in order to connect to the database? For example, if I want to connect to the database as a user A, okay, he needs to have some password, correct?
Yeah.
So first thing, a user should have password. One second, let me connect to the wired network. I guess Some problem. Fuck. Now, if he wants to create some objects like tables or indexes or anything that consumes space like LOBs or blobs or clops, it requires some space, correct? Hello?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So first thing is it should require password. The second thing is it should require some table space to create an object, and also it requires space on the table space. Space is nothing but quota on the table space, okay?
Okay.
The fourth thing is if the user is trying to do some sorting operations, and if the PGA allocated for that user is not sufficient, then it should require some additional space from the temporary table space, correct? So a
Yes.
user should also have a temporary table space apart from the regular table space, because whenever he wants to do any sorting or whenever he wants to create index, he should use the temporary table space and also the temporary tables. So temporary table space, he requires temporary table space. And there is no there is no requirement that you should specify the quota on the temporary table space. Once you assign a temporary table space for the user, by default he can use how much of space present in the temporary table space, because internally Oracle will use the temporary table space, not the user. So whenever there is no sufficient memory available in the PGA, then it will use the temporary table space. So Oracle process itself, it uses the temporary table space. So there is no requirement for giving externally a quota on a table space, on a temporary table space for the user. Okay. Next, uh, if we allow this user to connect to the database, he'll make a connection to the database. Say for example, he made a connection on Monday, and the only task the user has to perform was to retrieve the data from EMP table. Now he'll retrieve the data from the EMP table. After that, he forgets to close the session. The connection is still present in the database. That means there will be associated server process running on the database on behalf of the user, correct?
Yes.
So if he forgets to close the session, this server process still be running on the server, and it will be consuming some memory as well as CPU, correct or not?
Yeah.
So that means there should be some external constraints which should be imposed on the user, such that after some time the user will be, even though the user forgets to close the session, Oracle will clean up the sessions. Oracle will close the connection, and it will also clear up the server process and also the memory and CPU used by that server process. Okay.
Okay.
So to externally force or to externally apply some constraints on the user, we will create a profile. So in addition to all this information, to all these properties, a user will also have a profile assigned to him. So by using profile, we can limit the resource usage by a specific user. Okay. So these are the properties a user will have when we create a user in the database. So now we'll see how to create a user. The command will be create user, username identified by password. Here you can either use identified by password or you can use externally. I'll tell you the difference between the two. Then default table space. For example, I'm giving users as a default table space for that user. Then quota 10M 10M on users. temporary table space, temp, profile. So I have to give the profile name here. This is the command to create a user. Now, a user can be identified internally or externally. So there are two ways in which a user can be identified. The internal means password will be stored inside the data dictionary views. That means it will be stored inside the database for internally. If you go for external identification, same username should present at the Unix level, and okay, user should be present. I'll just make it as username or user should present at the Unix level, and same username or same user will be created in the database. And when creating the user, will specify identified externally. That means whenever you are trying to connect to the database with an Excel identification, you need to physically log into the server with the username. After that, you need to make a connection to the database using SQL plus slash. So by giving slash, it will take external authentication and it will allow the user to log in with the external username. That means with whatever username you logged into the Unix level, with the same username, you'll make a connection to the database. Okay. So once I create the user and show you the difference, you'll understand. So first we'll create an external identified user. Okay. We'll create a user with external authentication.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I logged in as this user. Now I'm creating a user. Username is Siva, identified externally. Default table space, users, temporary table space, temp, quota 10M on users, profile. I'll just give it as default. I'll tell you what is the default means. Okay, a user is created with external authentication. Now, to see the details about the users in the database, now you created the user, but if you want to know whether the user is existing in the database or not, we will use a data dictionary view called as dba underscore users. dba underscore users is a data dictionary view which will give you information about users. So select username, default underscore table space, temporary underscore table space, profile, password from db underscore users, where username equal to, I'm giving it as Siva. Okay. What should I do in order to improve the readability now? Hello? Hello?
Page size and column size need to set like.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah. What should be the
Hello?
lines? Yeah. Hello.
Lines around.
How many characters can be displayed on the screen? Probably around 250. So I'll
Yeah.
make it as 250 characters. Set pages is not required actually because we are retrieving only one row from the table, so it doesn't require the set page size. The only thing
Column.
is we require the columns. Okay. Can you tell me how to format the columns?
Column name like
Okay,
username
username. Okay.
for 820. I
Not
mean,
required, right? I mean, like the Siva is
I,
like 5, so I'll just
yeah,
make it as 5.
yeah,
Table space, I'll make it as 8.
yeah.
Okay. I guess it'll be sufficient. Okay. If you see here, the username is Siva, default table space is users, temporary table space is temp, profile assigned to the user is default, and the password is external authentication. Okay. Now, if I want to log in as Siva user, I cannot do SQL plus Siva slash some password because the password is not stored in the database. Oracle cannot authenticate the user because it is identified externally. The authentication can be done only with external. That
Okay.
means with the OS level, not at the database level. So we have to create a user at the Unix level. So what is the command to create a user?
User app, user
Okay.
app,
hmm
name. Yeah.
Okay. I'll make this user as part of DBA because I want this employee. This employee is a DBA in my company, so I want to make it as I'll make this user to be in the group of DBAs. So I'll give -g DBA space Siva. Okay. Now I have to set the password for this user. So what is the command to set a password?
Password.
PASSWD space Siva. Okay. I'll just give it as Oracle. Okay. Done. Now I log in as Siva user. So I'll do switch user Siva. Okay. I have to set the environment to DBA, right? I have to set the environment to DBA. So I'll do dot space or INV. Now what should be my SID?
Demo. Oh,
Okay, let me check. I'm in test database.
okay. Yeah. Just,
So by giving def, it will give you like what is the present date, to which database you're connected, to which user you're logged into the database, as which privilege, as HDB you log into the database, and what is your default editor? ED. That means if I do ED, it will not open a VI editor. So we have to set define editor equal to
mm,
define underscore editor equal to VI.
yeah.
Now if I do def, it will change. Okay, still it's showing as ED, but okay, looks like I haven't set it properly. Yeah, define underscore editor equal to VI. Now if I do def, the editor will be changed to VI. So it will show you all the environmental variables which are set. Okay. Now I set the environment to test. I'll do SQL plus slash. Okay. So once you create the user, he cannot connect to the database. He requires some privilege in order to make a connection to the database. That privilege is called as a create session privilege. Minimum privilege required for the user in order to make a connection to the database. Okay. Now, to assign a privilege to a user, we'll use a command grant privilege name to username. So this is a command to grant a privilege. Now, I'll go ahead and grant the privilege which is required in order to make a connection to the database. Can create session to the username is Siva. So these are will grant a privilege to a user. Grant privilege name to username. Now, even after assigning a privilege, the user cannot log into the database. The requirement for external authentication is we have to set one more parameter. There is a prefix. Okay, good. Make sure the OS underscore authentication underscore prefix is set to null. By default, it will be set to OPS dollar. So if it is set to OPS dollar, you cannot log into the database with external authentication. To provide external authentication in the database, you have to set this parameter to null. So if you have this, if you set this parameter to null, then only it will allow the user to connect to the database using external authentication. Okay. So make sure OS underscore authent underscore prefix is set to null. Now SQL plus slash. Now I made a connection to the database. If I do show user, the user is Siva. So this is how we'll connect to the database using external authentication. Okay.
Okay.
Now, till now, if I'm trying to connect to the database as a sys user, what I was doing SQL plus slash as sysdba, correct?
Yeah.
So that means it is using an external authentication. Slash means it will use the OS username, which is Oracle. As Oracle is the owner of the software, he can connect to the database as a sysdba user. So that's why SQL plus slash as sysdba, if I do show user, automatically will be connected to sys user, even though it is using external authentication as Oracle. As Oracle is the owner of the database, it will allow the user to connect to the database as a sys user. So that is the reason why I was able to do SQL plus slash as sysdba. Oh, 1 second. Yeah. As I made the user as part of a DBA group, he was able to log into the database as his DBA because the DBA was the default group to which Oracle software belongs to. So as a result, even if I do SQL plus slash as sysdba, it allowed the user to connect to the database as a sysdba, as sys user. Similar way, when I logged into the server as Oracle user, and if I did SQL plus slash as sysdba, I was able to connect to the database as a sys user. Is it clear?
Yeah.
If I create a user,
How we created the Oracle user like that? Yes.
sorry?
How we created the Oracle user like that, we created the Siva, right? So that's why we are able to connect to
Yeah, sure, correct. But what I'm saying is like Oracle user is not existing in the database. If you see here, select username from db underscore users, where username equal to Oracle. There is no Oracle user existing in the database. As a result, if I do SQL plus slash, it says invalid username and password. But
Okay.
I will be able to do SQL plus slash sysdba because Oracle is the owner of the software. As a result, it will allow the Unix level Oracle user to connect to the database as a sysdba.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Now, I'll create a user. Ashish, identified externally. Here, I'll not give anything, okay? I'll not give the default table space. I'll not give the temporary table space. I'll not give the profile. But still, I'll be able to create the user. I'll show you what are the default values assigned to a user whenever you'll not specify them. Now, even Ashish user is identified as externally. Let us grant a privilege to Ashish user such that he can make a connection to the database. Okay, now I'll create a user. Ashish. I'll not specify any group for him. Okay, I'm not specifying any group for him. I'll just do user add Ashish. Now I'll set a password for him as Oracle. Okay. Now I'll log in as Ashish. I created a user called as Ashish. Okay. Are you able to hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm logging in as Ashish user now. I set the environment to test. If I do SQL plus slash, I'm able to connect to the database. And if I do show user, it'll show the user as Ashish. I'll exit from here. I'll do SQL plus slash as sysdba. It will not allow insufficient privileges. It allowed Siva because he was part of a DBA group. But now Ashish is not part of a DBA group. That is the reason why he will not allow the user to connect to the database as sysdba.
Okay.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
If I want to know to which group Ashish user belongs to, what should I do? I want to know to which group the Ashish user belongs to at the Unix level. ID space Ashish will give me the information related to the user Ashish. See, the group, there is no group assigned to him. That is the reason why GID is equal to Ashish, groups is equal to Ashish. And that is the reason why he was not able to connect to the database as a sys user. Clear? Do you understand what is SQL plus slash sysdb now?
Yeah.
Now, if you see here, I haven't assigned any profile, any table space, any temporary table space for this user. But still, it will assign some default values if I don't specify them. So we'll see what are those default values. Username, password, profile. Okay. Okay. If you see here, even though I haven't specified the default table space and temporary table space, it assigned users and temporary table space as temp. Even the profile, it assigned default. So how did it assign those default values? So if you want to know what are the default values which are configured for the database, we have to use a dictionary view called as db underscore properties. So it's database underscore properties, I guess. Okay. So this is the view which will show you the property name as well as the default value. Select property underscore name, property underscore value from database underscore properties. Where property underscore name. I don't know whether the property underscore name is in small or it is in caps inside the inside the table. I don't know the exact value whether it is in caps or small. So what I will do here, I will use an upper function, upper of property underscore name. So what it will do, irrespective of the case in which the data is stored into the database, when it retrieves the data, it will make it into the uppercase. Like percentile, table space, percentile. Slash. I made a typo here. Property underscore name. Oh, okay. One more. If you see here, the default temp table space is default temporary table space is temp, and default permanent table space is users. So even though you don't specify them, it will assign these default values. These how you have to check the default values for each and every property in the database. In a similar way, if I want to check for a profile, okay, for profile there will be no property name. By default, it will there is a profile called as a default profile. By default, whenever you create a user, that profile will be added to the user. Is it clear? Now, what information is present in the profile? I mean, like how the user will be constrained, how the user will be closing this, how the Oracle will close the session of a specific user whenever he is connected to the database more than 1 hour. All those things will specify, all those properties or all those attributes will specify inside the profile. If you want to know details or the attributes which are defined inside a profile, we'll use a data dictionary view called as dba underscore profiles. That will give you the information regarding the profiles. Select profile. I'll just do star from dba underscore profiles. Okay. Here I have to set the page size because it displays 32 rows. So let me change the page size to 40. Okay. Space. Call space profile for A20, call space resource underscore name for A30. Okay. And I want to sort it based upon the profile name. So what I have to do? I have to add order by clause with profile. Okay. So if you see here, the default profile has these many resources. Each and every resource, look at each and every resource. One of them it says composite limit. The second one says password lock time. Third, password verify function. Reuse max, reuse time, lifetime, fail login attempts. All these are the properties of a profile. So by specifying a value for each and every property of this profile, we will limit the user. For example, if you take sessions per user, sessions per user is one of the property which is assigned to a user. So that means simultaneously a user can make how many connections to the database. If I specify sessions per user as 2, that means if I'm trying to connect to the database as a squad user, at a time I can make only 2 connections at max. So by specifying a value for sessions per user, you are limiting how many number of sessions a user can open into the database at a time. In a similar way, CPU per call. CPU per call means how much time of CPU can a SQL query takes. For example, if your SQL query takes 1 hour of time and it requires 1 hour of CPU time. Now if I set CPU per call as 30 minutes, that SQL query will time out saying the CPU per call is 30 minutes. That is the reason why it is getting timed out. So by specifying each and every value for each and every property, we can constrain the user. In a similar way, connect time. If a user is connected to the database for more than 1 hour, kick out the user from the database. So we can specify the value in minutes here. In a similar way, idle time. If the user is more than 10 minutes, if the user is idle for more than 10 minutes, then Oracle can clean up the user session. Like this, you can constrain the user. You can restrict the user. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Now we'll try to create a profile. Create profile. Demo. Limit. Sessions per user 2. Idle underscore time 3. That means a user can idle for 3 minutes. If he is more than 3 minutes, if he is idle for more than 3 minutes, the user session will be terminated. I'll just create a profile. Now a profile is created. I haven't specified any value for other resources. I just specified the value for sessions per user and idle time. The rest of the resource names will take the values equal to the default profile values. So if you don't specify the value for each and every resource, the other resource names will take the default values assigned with the default profile. Okay. Now let us go ahead and check it in the db underscore profile. Select profile, name, value from db underscore profiles, where profile equal to demo. Resource underscore type limit. Okay. C/value/limit. If you see here, the values which are specified are present. The sessions per user is 2, idle time is 3. But for rest of them, it says the value is default. That means the value will be equal to the value which is present in the default profile. Okay? Is it clear?
Okay.
Now, if you want to assign this profile to the Scott user, what we have to do is alter user Scott profile name. So this will assign demo profile to the Scott user. Now we'll see. Select username profile from db underscore users, where username equal to Scott. Now the Scott user has demo profile. Okay. Now let me make more than 2 connections as Scott user and we'll see what happens. SQL plus Scott/Tiger. I made a one connection. Okay. Now I'll make another connection. Okay. Oh. The reason for that is one of the session was kicked off. Okay. We'll do one thing. Let me alter the profile. I'll make ideal time not 3 minutes. I'll make it as 10 minutes. Okay. Alter profile ideal_time limit. Sorry. Alter profile demo limit sessions underscore per underscore user space value. I'll make it as 5 instead of 3. So this is how we can change the value. This is how we can change the existing value of a resource in a profile. Okay. Now let me check the database name too. Okay, it is test. I'll close all the connections. Okay. I'm closing all the connections. Now I want to know how many sessions a Scott user has in the database. Can I know what is the view which can give me the information about the sessions? Ashish or Shiva?
DBA_sessions.
No, $V session. అది చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్. రోజుకి ఒక 100 టైమ్స్ యూజ్ చేస్తాం మనం.
$3 sessions. Yeah.
Select SID, serial number, username from $V session,
Yeah.
where username equal to Scott. This will give you how many sessions a Scott user has into the database. If you see here, none. Okay. I'll make a connection now. Okay. Before doing that, if you want to affect whatever the values you are given to the resource, if you want to affect whatever the values you are given to a resource, you have to enable one of the parameter in the database. Show parameter resource. There is a parameter called as resource underscore limit. You have to set that to true. Then only whatever the value you are given to the resource will take effect. Now if you see here, the resource underscore limit is set to false. That means even though you constrain a user with a profile, the value which you specified in the profile will not take effect. 1 minute. So let us set the parameter to true. So what is the command to alter a parameter? Siva?
Hello?
Yeah, what is the command to alter a parameter? After set resource underscore limit to true. So what should be the what is the command?
Alter system parameter name.
Alter system set.
Yeah.
మీకు ఇలా అడుగుతున్నా గుర్తుంటుందని చెప్పి అడుగుతున్నా అంతే.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. అలా అడిగితేనే గుర్తుంటుంది.
యా అదే. Equal to true.
Yeah.
Okay. Now if I do show parameter resource underscore limit. Okay, if you see here, I haven't specified single quotes, even though the true is a varchar, it's a string, right? But I haven't specified that in the single quotes. The reason for that is it's a boolean. True or false is a boolean value. So you don't require to specify it in the single quotes. Now the value which we are given into the resource, the sessions per user, will take effect. So let us log in as Scott user. Okay. Let us go ahead and check it in $V session. Now we'll have information about one session who logged into the database as Scott user. Okay. Okay. I'll execute the same command. We'll have two sessions now. let me try to invoke a third session as a Scott user. Sorry.
We give maximum sessions 5 right here.
Did I make
5
change for
sessions.
sessions per user? Okay, okay. Let me make 5 more
Yeah.
connections. Then. I thought I changed for ideal time.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like,
నేను ఐడియల్ టైంకి చేంజ్ చేద్దాం అనుకున్నా యాక్చువల్గా.
అదే నేను చెప్దాం అనుకున్నాను కాకపోతే
ఓకే. Okay. Okay, right now I have 5 sessions. I'll make a 6th session. Okay. It says
yeah.
exceeded simultaneous sessions per user limit. Will I'll not close the sessions. We'll see. After 5 minutes, after 3 minutes, the sessions will be cleared by the
Okay.
which process will take care of cleaning up that process?
Pimon.
Yeah. Even these sessions will be terminated or cleaned up by Pman process
Yeah.
once they're idle for more than 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Okay. Let us check when did the users logged into the database. So there is another column called as logon underscore time in $V session that will give you when did the user logged into the database. Select SID, serial number, username, logon underscore time from $V session. Okay. The time is displayed only with the date fashion. I want to display it in. I want to display it in including hours, minutes, and seconds. So what should I have to do? ఇక్కడ డే లాగా డిస్ప్లే అవుతుంది. I want to
Yeah.
know the time also. Alter session set NLS underscore date underscore format. మొన్న కూడా అడిగిన ఇదే.
Yeah.
HH24 MISS. So hours in 24-hour format, minutes and seconds. Okay. Now if you see here, one of the user is logged in at 8:58. So in one more minute, this session will be cleared up by Pmon process. Probably this one 8:57, right? So this session will be gone. It will take some time and it will be gone. Okay. These are we can limit a user. To create a profile, the command is let me yeah create profile, profile name, limit, resource name, and you don't need to remember the resource names because it will be present in db underscore profiles. Whatever the resource name present in a default profile, those are the resources which are available. Value. Okay, these are will create a profile. Now if we want to alter the profile, we'll use the command alter profile, profile name, limit, resource name, value, whatever the value you want to. change it to. Okay. 9 2. What is the value which we gave? 3 minutes or 5 minutes?
3 minutes.
Automation 3 minutes. It is 8:56, so it should be gone. $8:58. See here, even though it's showing up in the sessions, actually the user was disconnected. Exceeded maximum idle time. Please connect again.
Okay.
But still, it's showing up. Okay, it's cleared up now. It will take, actually, it will take some time to clear up the sessions. There is also another column called as status, which will give you in which state the session is in. So let us go ahead and check that. If you see here, the status is sniped. That means Pmon is already terminated the sessions, but still they are existing. It will take some time to clear up from $V session. Usually the status should be active. Let us make one more connection as Scott user and you'll see a difference. Okay. If you see here, it says inactive. So either the status should be in inactive or active. Active means the user is performing any query. Inactive means user is idle. Sniped means it is already terminated, but it is not cleared yet from $V session.
Okay.
So these are, we can restrict the users. Now, if I want to change the property of the user, like the way I change the resource value, I can also change the property of a user. For example, if I want to make the default table space of the uh, user Siva from users to a different table space, I can do that. Let us see whether we have any additional table space. I don't think we have any additional table space here. This was a manual database creation, right? Test.
Yeah.
Not demo. No, no, no. Demo was manual database creation.
Configuration.
So maybe I'll have some additional table space here. Oh, yeah, I have example. So let me make use of example. I want to make the default table space of Siva from users to example. So the command will be alter user Siva default table space example. These are will alter. For example, if I want to make external authenticated user Siva to an internal authenticated user, I can also make that. Create alter user Siva identified by, I can give password here itself. That's it. I can connect to the Siva as Oracle. I mean like to the database. Even though at the Unix level I logged in as Oracle. If you see here at the Unix level I logged in as Oracle user. But still I'm able to connect to the database as Siva user because I made it internal authenticated user from external authentication. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I logged in as Siva. Let me go ahead and create some table. We'll see whether he'll be able to create a table or not. Create table demo. product varchar 2 of 10 serial number varchar 2 of 8. Okay, so it says insufficient privileges. So if a user wants to do some actions, you have to give some privilege to the user. As a DBA, you have to give privileges. Then only he can create objects. In a similar way, let us go ahead and try to fetch information from EMP table. I logged in as Siva user. So what is the query to fetch information from EMP table, which is present in Scott?
Select star from
Mhm.
EMP.
That's it.
Oh, no.
If you want to
Start,
select from other user
start,
objects, you have to give the schema
yeah,
name.
start that colon
Yeah, Scott.emp.
EMP. Yeah,
It says table or view does not exist. That means the user Siva has no privilege on EMP table.
yeah.
So once you give a create session privilege, he can just connect to the database. He cannot do any actions. So to give privileges on existing objects, you will be giving object privileges. For example, if you want Siva user to select information from EMP table, we'll be giving an object privilege. To give an object privilege, the command will be grant select. I'll first write it in notepad. Grant object privilege on owner dot table name or object name to grantee. Grantee is the user to whom you are assigning a privilege. Owner will be the owner of the object. Now, if I want to assign a privilege to Siva such that he can retrieve the information from the table, so that privilege name will be select privilege. So by giving select privilege, user Siva can retrieve the information from EMP table. Grant select on score.emp to Siva. Now, who can execute this command? A DBA can execute this command. A user with DBA privilege can execute this command, or else owner of the object can also assign the privileges. So here either Scott can assign the privilege or a sys user can assign the privilege. Okay.
Okay.
Grant select on Scott.emp to Siva. The moment I gave the privilege, if I do again, I'll be able to retrieve the information. See here, I logged in as Siva only.
Okay.
Earlier, it gave me saying that tabular view does not exist. But now, I'll be able to select the information because I assigned object privilege on EMP to Siva and that privilege is select. Now, if I try to insert data into the table, insert into scott.emp, ename, emp number, values, Harish 20. It says insufficient privilege because he only has select privilege. He doesn't have the insert privilege. If you want to give the insert privilege also, we'll specify grant insert on scott.emp to Siva. Now he'll be able to perform the insert. Okay. Because we wrote a trigger, it is not allowing to perform the insert.
Okay.
Remember, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now if you want to disable a trigger, the command will be, let me show you how to disable a trigger. Alter table On emp table I wrote a trigger, right? So I have to give alter table scott.emp disable trigger name. Trigger name is trigger underscore demo. Oh, I'll just do alter trigger scott dot trigger underscore demo. Okay, these all will disable trigger. Alter trigger name disable. Now I'll execute the same statement. I'll be able to insert the row. I'll comment select count of star. The number of rows will be 17 now from 16. Okay. Now, if I don't want to specify each and every time, if I don't want to specify username dot table name, what object should I create under Siva user? Each and every time I don't want to specify that scott.emp. I just want to specify emp. Do you remember about synonyms? I told you about public synonyms and private synonyms. Once I told you how to create tables indexes, I told you how to create a synonym. Okay. Create synonym. Synonym name. I'll make the synonym as emp only for scott.emp. So what this will do, it will create an alias name for scott.emp. That alias name is emp. Such that from next, once this synonym is created, I can just do select star from emp. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to specify scott.emp. Okay. In these cases, we'll create a synonym.
Okay.
Now, will the user Siva be able to create the synonym? He doesn't have the privilege yet. Even though he has select privilege on emp, even though he has insert privilege, he cannot create a synonym. We'll see. It says insufficient privilege again. Now, in order to create a object, we have to give a system privilege. Till now we saw how to assign an object privilege. That means object privilege will be given whenever you want to assign a privilege on the existing object. If you want to create a new object, you have to give a system privilege. So basically privileges are of two types. One is system privilege and other type is object privilege. Object privilege and the second type is system privilege. To assign an object privilege, we already saw how to assign an object privilege. I'll just copy it from here. Now, to assign a system privilege, the command will be grant privilege name to grantee. Grantee is a user to which we are giving a privilege. We already assigned a create session privilege if you remember. That is one of system privilege. Okay, grant privilege name to grantee. These all will assign a system privilege. Now, if you want to assign a system privilege, create synonym to the user Siva. The command will be grant create synonym to Siva. Now I'll be able to create the synonym. So there is a difference between a system privilege and object privilege. System privilege will be given to create new objects or to alter the existing structure of a table. If you want to perform any DML statements against the existing objects, you have to assign object privileges. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Now, if you want to know what are the system privileges assigned to a user and what are the object privileges assigned to a user, first we'll see how to check the system privilege assigned to a user. Select grantee privilege from db underscore sys underscore priv. This is a data dictionary view which will give you information about system privileges. And here I have to specify where grantee equal to Siva because I'm only interested with the user Siva. I want to find out what are the system privileges assigned to the user Siva. If you see here, Siva user has two system privileges. One is create session and another is create synonym. Give me a second, let me get my charger. Okay, now we'll see how to check the object privileges which are given to user. Select privilege table underscore name owner grantee from db underscore tab underscore privs. Even though the column name says as table underscore name, this doesn't mean that only the privileges which are assigned on a table will be present in db tab privs. It will be the table name will be any of the object type. It is not only table, it can be index or it can be a trigger or it can be a function, it can be a procedure. By seeing at the column name, don't think that this will only have the information about tables. It will have information about all the object types. A lot of people will get confused about this column name. They'll think only the table information will be there in this view. Okay, so db underscore tab underscore privs is a view which will give you the information about object privileges assigned to the user. So if you see here, an insert privilege on EMP table which belongs to the Scott user has been assigned to Siva. In a similar way, select privilege on EMP of Scott user is assigned to Siva. These are will check about object privileges. ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయి ఇప్పటివరకు? యా ఏమన్నా ఆశిష్?
ఒకటి అంటే డౌట్ ఉన్నది. అది ఇంతకుముందు చెప్పినప్పుడు మనం కన్ఫరెన్స్ రాస్తుండే కదా యూజర్ కి. ఇప్పుడు మనం మామూలుగా ఈమెయిల్ కొన్నిసార్లు 5 సార్లు లాగిన్ అయితే మనం అట్లా బ్యాన్ చేస్తాం కదా కొంతసేపు వరకు. అట్లా కూడా ఉంటుందా ఇక్కడ జనరల్ గా? అంటే ఎవరైనా ఇప్పుడు ట్రై చేస్తున్నారు అనుకో ఫాల్స్ లాగిన్ లాగా, అట్లా కూడా ఆప్షన్ ఉంటుందా అని?
అంటే అర్థం కాలే. అంటే ఒక పాస్వర్డ్ తప్పిస్తున్నా 3 times కంటే ఎక్కువ?
ఇప్పుడు కొన్నిసార్లు ఎవరైనా పాస్వర్డ్ 5 సార్లు తప్పిస్తే మామూలుగా మనం ఈమెయిల్ కొన్నిసార్లు లాగౌట్ అయిపోతాం కదా అకౌంట్స్ దేంట్లో. అట్లా కూడా ఆప్షన్ ఉంటుందా? మనం టైం సెట్ చేయొచ్చా ఇట్లా?
సెట్ చేయొచ్చు.
ఓకే.
సెలెక్ట్ ప్రొఫైల్ రిసోర్స్ అండర్స్కోర్ నేమ్ ఇక్కడ failed login attempts అని ఉంటుంది. So you can set a value for this failed login attempts. If you specify it as 3 and if a user is trying to log into the database for more than 3 times with the wrong password, the account will be locked. So he needs to contact administrator again to unlock the account. As a DBA, you'll be checking like which user tried to log in with an invalid credentials.
ఓకే.
ఇంకేమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయా?
సో ఆ పాస్వర్డ్ లాక్ టైం కూడా దానికేనా కింద ఉన్నది మామూలుగా?
లేదు, పాస్వర్డ్ లాక్ టైం దేనికి అంటే ఇప్పుడు మామూలుగా ఇప్పుడు 3 times కంటే నువ్వు ఎక్కువ చేసినావు అనుకో అకౌంట్ లాక్ అవుతుంది కదా. అకౌంట్ లాక్ అయినాక ఎన్ని డేస్ వరకు అది లాక్ ఉండాలి, ఎన్ని డేస్ వరకు అది లాక్ ఉండాలి అని చెప్తుంది అనమాట. ఇఫ్ యూ స్పెసిఫైడ్ as 1 day, ఆఫ్టర్ 1 day ఇట్ విల్ బి అన్లాక్డ్.
ఓకే.
అదే విధంగా ఇఫ్ యూ గో ఫర్ పాస్వర్డ్, ఇక్కడ పాస్వర్డ్ లైఫ్ టైం ఉంది కదా. సో ఇఫ్ ఐ సెట్ ఎ పాస్వర్డ్ ఫర్ ఎ యూజర్, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇఫ్ ఐ సెట్ ఇప్పుడు శివ యూజర్ కి నేను ఆరెకిల్ అని పాస్వర్డ్ సెట్ చేశాను, హౌ మెనీ డేస్ దిస్ పాస్వర్డ్ విల్ బి వ్యాలిడ్. ఇఫ్ ఐ గివ్ ఇట్ as 0, immediately when a user Shiva is trying to log into the database for the first time, it says the password has been expired, please create a new password, please assign a new password for this user అని అంటుంది. ఇప్పుడు మీరు స్కాట్ చూస్తే మీకు యాక్చువల్గా ఫస్ట్ టైం లాగిన్ అయినప్పుడు అడుగుంటుంది. సో అక్కడ పాస్వర్డ్ లైఫ్ టైం 0 ఉంటుంది అనమాట దానికి.
అదొకటి ప్లస్ మనము 1 month తర్వాత ఐ మీన్ పాస్వర్డ్ చేంజ్ చేసుకోవాలంటే సెట్ చేయొచ్చండి.
అదే ఇది పాస్వర్డ్ లైఫ్ టైం 30 పెట్టామనుకోండి, ఆఫ్టర్ 30 days it will say the account is expired, you need to set the password again
every month 30 days.
Yeah, 30 days.
ఓకే.
ఈ రీయూజ్ టైం అంటే ఏంటంటే ఆఫ్టర్ హౌ మెనీ డేస్ యూ కెన్ రీయూజ్ ద సేమ్ పాస్వర్డ్.
ఓకే.
రీయూజ్ మ్యాక్స్ అంటే ఎనీ టైమ్స్ మీరు ఒకటే పాస్వర్డ్ ని రీయూజ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు. ఓకే. ఈ పాస్వర్డ్ వెరిఫికేషన్ ఫంక్షన్ అంటే you can create a user defined function specifying like password should be of this many characters, and password should have some special character, and password should not be in caps. You can create a function with specifying all those constraints, and you can assign the function name to this profile.
Okay.
ఒకసారి చూద్దాం, నా దగ్గర ఉందేమో, ఉంటే నేను చూపిస్తాను మీకు. ఇక్కడ చూడండి, ఇక్కడ ఇది ఒక ఫంక్షన్ అనమాట. ఈ ఫంక్షన్ క్రియేట్ చేసి ఇక్కడ స్పెసిఫై చేసాం అనమాట. పాస్వర్డ్ లెంత్ కనుక లెంత్ ఫంక్షన్ ఉంటుంది, క్యారెక్టర్ ఫంక్షన్ లెంత్ అన్నది. సో లెంత్ ఆఫ్ క్యారెక్టర్ ఏదైనా స్ట్రింగ్ ఇస్తే దాని లెంత్ చెప్తుంది. సో ఆ లెంత్ ఆఫ్ ద పాస్వర్డ్ ఇస్ లెస్ దెన్ 8, ఇట్ షుడ్ త్రో అన్ ఎర్రర్ సేయింగ్ దట్ పాస్వర్డ్ లెంత్ ఈజ్ లెస్ దెన్ 8. అదే విధంగా పాస్వర్డ్ లెంత్ 30 క్యారెక్టర్స్ కంటే ఎక్కువ ఉండదు. సో వీ కెన్ స్పెసిఫై దట్. సో ఒక ఫంక్షన్ క్రియేట్ చేసి ఈ ఫంక్షన్ నేమ్ అక్కడ అసైన్ చేయొచ్చు అనమాట ఆ ప్రొఫైల్ కి. ఆల్టర్ ప్రొఫైల్ నేమ్, ఈ ఫంక్షన్ నేమ్ ఇచ్చేసేయాలన్నమాట. ఆల్టర్ ప్రొఫైల్ నేమ్ లిమిట్ పాస్వర్డ్ వెరిఫై ఫంక్షన్ స్పేస్. ఇప్పుడు ఈ ఫంక్షన్ నేమ్ ఇక్కడ ఇది ఉంది కదా పాస్వర్డ్ వెరిఫై అని, సో అట్లా యూజ్ చేసి అనమాట మీరు. ఇన్ ఏ సిమిలర్ వే లాజికల్ రీడ్స్ పర్ సెషన్ అంటే, ఇది యాక్చువల్గా లాజికల్ రీడ్స్ పర్ సెషన్ అంటే ఏంటంటే నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ బ్లాక్స్, మీరు ఒక ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ని రిట్రీవ్ చేసినప్పుడు హౌ మెనీ నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ బ్లాక్స్ ఆర్ బీయింగ్ రెడ్. సో ఈ స్పెసిఫైడ్ నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ బ్లాక్స్ కంటే ఎక్కువ రీడ్ చేయదన్నప్పుడు యూ కెన్ ఆల్సో స్పెసిఫై దట్ లాజికల్ రీడ్స్ పర్ కాల్. పర్ కాల్ అంటే ఒక క్వెరీ కండి, పర్ సెషన్ అంటే ద టోటల్ సెషన్ కి. In a similar way, CPU per call and CPU per session.
ఓకే.
ఇంకేమన్నా
అప్పుడు అడిగినా కదా
ఏంటి?
మోహన్, అది ఆర్ఎస్ఎల్ నాది టైం అవుట్ అయిపోతుందని. సో ఇక్కడ మన ఐడిల్ టైమ్ ఇప్పుడు మన
ఇది యూజర్ది కదా, ఇది యూజర్ది కదా, ఇది సర్వర్ లెవెల్ అవుతుంది కదా.
ఓకే, అర్థమైంది.
యా యా. ఇంకా ఇంకేమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయా ఇక్కడ?
లేదు.
So if you want to see what are the different types of object privileges available, we can just do select distinct privilege from db underscore tab underscore privs. సో ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ప్రివిలేజ్ ఇన్ని ఉంటాయండి. ఒకటి సెలెక్ట్, ఇన్సర్ట్, అప్డేట్, డిలీట్.
ఓకే.
నెక్స్ట్ ఆల్టర్ కూడా ఉంటుంది. సో ఆల్టర్ ఈస్ నథింగ్ బట్ ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ టు చేంజ్ ద స్ట్రక్చర్ ఆఫ్ ద ఎగ్జిస్టింగ్ టేబుల్, అది కూడా ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ప్రివిలేజ్ వస్తుంది. ఎందుకంటే ఎగ్జిస్టింగ్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ మీద మీరు యాడ్ చేస్తున్నారు కాబట్టి అది కూడా ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ప్రివిలేజ్ వస్తుంది. సో ఆల్టర్. అదేవిధంగా ఇది వచ్చేసి ఎగ్జిక్యూట్. దేనికంటే ఇప్పుడు మనం ప్రొసీజర్ క్రియేట్ చేసాం కదా, ఒక ప్రొసీజర్ ని రన్ చేయాలంటే ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేయాలి కదా. సో వీ హ్యావ్ టు గివ్ అన్ ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ ప్రివిలేజ్ టు ద సివా యూజర్. లెట్ us go ahead and see what are the what is the object name which we created on that day. Object underscore type equal to procedure and owner equal to Scott. So db underscore objects, which will give you information about all the objects. Within that, I'm interested only in the procedures, and that too the procedures which are present under Scott. So there is a procedure called as demo. Now if I want to execute that procedure, I have to do execute scott.demo, but this user will not have the privilege.
ఓకే.
As a result, it will say scott.dmp must be declared. Let us go ahead and grant execute privilege. Oh, sorry. dmp/dmo. Okay. Now if I execute the procedure, name is already used. Sorry. Execute scott.demo. Okay. So to check the output, we have to set server output on. చెప్పా కదా, we have to set the server output on.
Yeah.
Now I was able to retrieve the information.
Yeah.
సో ఒక ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ ప్రివిలేజ్ ఏమో దానికి ఒక ప్రొసీజర్ కి కానీ ఫంక్షన్ కి కానీ ట్రిగర్ కి కానీ వీ హ్యావ్ టు గివ్ ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ ప్రివిలేజ్. ఓకే. ఈ ఆన్ కమిట్ రిఫ్రెష్, క్వెరీ రీరేట్, ఈ ఆన్ కమిట్ రిఫ్రెష్ వచ్చేసి మెటీరియల్స్ యూస్ కి.
ఓకే.
క్వెరీ రీరేట్ మీరు వాడరండి, లైట్ అది. అండ్ డీబగ్ ప్రివిలేజ్ వచ్చేసి ఏంటంటే కంపైల్ చేయడానికి అనమాట. ఇప్పుడు ప్రొసీజర్ లో ఏమైనా ఎర్రర్స్ ఉన్నాయనుకోండి, ఆల్టర్ ప్రొసీజర్ నేమ్ కంపైల్ అని వాడతాం కంపైల్ చేయడానికి. కంపైల్ చేశాక షో ఎర్రర్స్ కొడితే ఎర్రర్స్ చూపిస్తుంది. సో మీరు ఆ ప్రొసీజర్ ని కంపైల్ చేయాలంటే యూ హ్యావ్ టు హ్యావ్ డీబగ్ ప్రివిలేజ్.
ఓకే.
రిఫరెన్సెస్ వచ్చేసి ఏంటంటే ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ టు if you want to define a foreign key constraint on a table, you have to refer to some primary key, right?
Yeah.
So that is nothing but it's a references privilege. So if you have a references privilege, even though you are creating a table under Siva user, you can refer to the primary key of Scott EMP table.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
In a similar way, if you want to see all the privileges which are available for system privileges, we'll do select distinct privilege from db underscore sys underscore privs. There are 202 privileges. Instead of giving select privilege on each and every table, If you want the user to select all the tables in the database, you can just give select any table privilege.
Okay.
So even that is an example of system privilege. In a similar way, execute any procedure, alter any table, drop user, create user. So if a user has a create user privilege, then he can create users also. If a user has drop user privilege, he can drop the users. If a user has create table space privilege, he can create table spaces. In a similar way, like create public database link, all this will comes under, this will come under system privileges. Now if Siva want to create a table, we need to assign create table privilege. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll continue tomorrow then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you.
Tomorrow 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Same time.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Yeah.